Endurance bikes have been a staple of the road bike market for about 20 years, following the release of the Specialized Roubaix back in 2004, a bike which is still very much a fan favourite even today. This corner of the market is changing though, just without the usual great big fanfare that the industry likes to create. The presence of all road bikes is certainly being felt more strongly, and the term keeps on creeping up. But it's left me questioning, what is an all-road bike? What is an all-road bike for? And what does this mean for the future of the beloved endurance bike? I think a good place to start is, what is an all-road bike? Well, annoyingly, that in itself is a bit of a tough question, but you could sum them up as 80% road and 20% everything else. It's a very hard category to define, and this lack of a clear definition has resulted in a mishmash of wishy-washy bikes that are also trying to figure themselves out. Brands that do have dedicated all-road bikes will usually claim that they embody a few different characteristics, those being a slightly more relaxed geometry over and above their endurance counterparts, more tyre clearance, and potentially more mounting points. Not forgetting, of course, more forgiving gear ratios and wider tyres. Now, while those seem like a set of pretty clear and understandable criteria, things get slightly more muddled when you go a little deeper. For example, the Cannondale Synapse LTD is offered in an all-road build. So what we have here is clearly an endurance bike, but one which has been decked out with a 2x GRX group set and 30mm wide tyres. So, is an all-road bike just a different specification? And the answer to that is, in some cases, yes. Some may define an all-road bike as just being for terrible roads, like gravel, or perhaps they're just the perfect winter bike. I think one thing is clear. This newfangled all-road category can to some extent be left to the consumer to categorise themselves. It could be an endurance bike with slightly more forgiving gear ratios and tyres which take advantage of modern day clearances, which, when you look at the Synapse, is up to a claimed 35mm. It could also be a dedicated all-road build, much like this brand new Vitus Venom that you can see behind me, which does have a slightly altered geometry compared to the Xenium, which is the brand's endurance offering. The key thing with this new Venom is that Vitus do offer the bike in a couple of different builds. We have the road-going 105 Di2 build, and we also have a 1x SRAM Force build. Another example is the Ridley Griffin. Now, the Belgian brand says that the Griffin can be used as a road and as a gravel bike, with the geometry sitting between the road-going Phoenix and the gravel-going Canzo Fast. When you look at it, all that really needs to change is the tyres to truly optimise how the bike feels on the surfaces you want to take it on. With something that is so vague and lacking in definitions, sometimes it's easier to look at what something certainly isn't. So in this case, an all-road bike would likely never have suspension, dropper posts, or 650B wheels. The former is the only one on that list that might change. If Specialized ever decided to go into the all-road space, I'm sure it would incorporate a Future Shock in the same way that the Diverge and the Roubaix does, but that is just pure speculation. Dropper posts and 650B wheels will be reserved for gravel bikes and other off-road bikes. Now, that's not to say that you can't fit them retrospectively, it just wouldn't make too much sense to do so. So, what is an all-road bike actually for? The obvious answer is that it's for riding, but going a little deeper once more, it's again clear that we as the consumers can dictate what we want the bike for. It could be anything from velvet-like tarmac to fairly loose gravel. My recommendation would be that these bikes are reserved for either longer days in the saddle, roads of a poor quality, or for riders who genuinely love to mix it up and do a little bit of everything, including some gravel, with the severity of what you can tackle being dependent on the tyres that you're running. You also cannot ignore that an all-road bike would make for a pretty wicked winter bike, with big, comfy, confidence-inspiring tyres, big gear ratios for the ultimate Zone 2 rides, and mounting points galore for all the mudguards and racks that you could ever want. They really are very well suited to taking on a pretty harsh winter. From everything I've said so far, the term jack of all trades comes to mind, but as the full saying goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one. So if you're after pure versatility, then a bike which does attach itself to the all-road category may be what you're after. If a bike like this allows you to consolidate and run just a one-bike garage, then maybe that would enable you to get something with a higher specification and also create a little space at the same time. What does this mean for the long-standing trusty endurance bike though? Well, I believe that we'll see brands go a number of different ways. First being that they continue to make endurance bikes with more claims about compliance and reductions on rider fatigue. We could see pure endurance bikes continue to open up tyre clearances, although I don't think it'll get much wider than 35mm. There's also a very strong possibility that endurance bikes will now start to come in more all-road build specifications, much like the LTD version of the Synapse. When I look at Pinarello, that recently released its X Series range of bikes, it was very quick to say that the new range is certainly not an all-road bike and that it is a performance endurance bike. So it's likely that some brands will continue to stay true to what an endurance bike is at its very core, without any dilution. Secondly, I think we could see some bikes which have historically been endurance bikes morph into all-road bikes, leaving exclusively paved surfaces behind them. All-road bikes are here to stay, and that is no bad thing. They offer incredible versatility, and given how many bikes seemingly fall into the category and the breadth of ability they cover, with some more tailored for the road and others for off-it, there really will be something for everyone. As a consumer, when looking to purchase a bike in this space, we just have to consider what terrain we want to ride on, and from there, you'll be able to find a bike that fits your requirements. Since an all-road bike can just be a change of an endurance bike specification, they really aren't a world apart from what we already have. You may even already own an all-road bike in the form of a modern-day endurance bike, which is just waiting for a change of tyres and gear ratios. Perhaps in this modern-day world of cycling, we no longer have hard boundaries on what category a bike really falls into. Maybe we need to think about drop bar bikes as a spectrum rather than 3 or 4 hard categories. At one end, you'd have aero bikes, followed by do-it-all race bikes, followed by climbing bikes, then endurance bikes, then all-road bikes, then racy gravel bikes, and then adventure gravel bikes, which is probably when you'd then move towards hybrids and other straight bar bikes. The nice thing is that no matter what type of cycling you enjoy doing most, in theory, it means there will be a bike out there which exactly fits your requirements. The flip side to that though is that it may take some time to track it down given the vast selection of options. What are your thoughts on all-road bikes? If you have any questions about them, then please do drop them down below. If you enjoyed the video, then please do drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you again very soon.